Welcome back, guys. Today in this video I am going to replace the front cowl with a new one. So going through this with the heat gun works pretty well for the top portion up here, but this bottom portion is very thin, and if you take too much time in one area and you have it at too high of a heat setting, it will start to warp like up here. So if you take your time, it'll be completely fine, but if you keep the heat gun on there for too long, it'll get too hot and it'll start to warp. So the first thing we need to do to get this off is we need to remove this pin here, and there's another one on the other side. Now these pins are a little difficult to get out. You might want to get a screwdriver or a tool, a trim remover tool, to get these out. And here's the pin that goes in there, a little plastic pin. These are pretty easy to get out, but don't lose these, because you kind of need these. And if there is wind in this video, there's a hurricane coming, so just ignore the wind. So next thing we're going to do is we need to get these wipers off on both sides. It's going to be exactly the same thing, but to get to the wiper and get to the little nut covered over here, you have to take this off. Now these are all just pins, clips. There you go. So set this aside. I would put these in order. Right next to this one, I'm putting these where they're supposed to go. But now that this is off, you can go ahead and take this little plug that goes over the top. There it goes. So that's the plug that goes over the top. And now we just ratchet this off real quick. Let me see what size this is. This is going to be a 17 millimeter. Now that I have the nut off, I am going to raise up the arm and pry it back and forth until it loosens itself up, like you see, like that. Oh. Once that arm drops down, it makes it very difficult to get this thing out. So there you go. So it's got little grooves in there, which makes it a little difficult. It's like little teeth that it grabs onto. It also grabs on to this part around here, so that's why you have to kind of shake it up to get it loose. Just all those little teeth stuck in there. Thing we have to do once we get these off is to pull up on these plastic pieces. You can see this one's starting to come out now that we took the top off and the wiper off. These are going to have to come out. They're going to be a little difficult because the bottom of the hood is right here. You can put it down. I have it put way up here just so I have enough room to do all this. But you can put it down a little bit to make your life a little bit easier doing this. But basically it's just clips holding this in, and you just kind of have to finagle it. Once it pops out, then you just have to kind of scoot it out. See, right now I have it caught. So I'm going to lower this down and this should come right out. Okay, so I just took mine out, and as you can see, the clip is still stuck in here. Definitely take these out if you want to reuse these. Looks like mine's broken, so hopefully my new one comes with one. But definitely have to take this out and just do that on both sides. So now that everything is out over here, you're going to have another tab like we saw back over here. This one needs to be removed, and same thing with the other side. There is also one right here, and here we are back on the other side. That is the other one. And once all of the pins are out on both sides and the one here in the middle, or you can actually leave the one here in the middle and the ones on the side and just kind of lift up on the plastic. Either way, you still run the risk of breaking them. But the way that this is set up, don't pull straight up. You have to push down and then up, and it'll come out. Again, don't pull it all the way out. If we look at this one, underneath, these are the clips. They've got little hooks on them. So that's why you need to pull it out and then up. But there's still one more thing left before you can have this thing free, and that is your nozzles here on the bottom. Depending on what you get, if you get a brand new one, if it has nozzles or if it doesn't have the nozzles for your spray, just disconnect it where it needs to be disconnected to hook up the new lines or the old lines with the new one, however your new one works. But I'm going to disconnect these and it's removed. Now the new one, once you get the lines all put in, you're going to have to finagle around a little bit, but a good thing I got to get it in was you need to look at this pin right here to make sure it's actually in the right hole where it should be. So you need to touch the bottom of this first, put it down, and then in, because each one of those pins needs to be in their proper place and then pushed up. So if I push this back out, it'll slide out, and then if you bend it back up, you can see here are all the holes, and here are the pins. You just need to make sure it's in the right place, just a little bit below. You can see over here, this is going to be squeezed under there. You don't really need to do it, it'll fall into place. That one's in the right place over there. But down here, just make sure this is flat before you scoot it forward. And then it should just scoot right forward, lining up all the way around. So next we're going to replace all of the pins. And just a note, make sure that your washer hose here is put into its little designated area, because if you crimp it down here, when you put this pin in, it's not going to work. So make sure that that's in the right place. Then I'm going to replace all of these, of course the one here, the one in the middle, and of course the same thing on the other side. Now that everything there is done, we're going to grab the little quarter panel side piece doohickey guy over here. Make sure that this piece that comes up for your windshield wiper goes over the hole, and then you have to kind of finagle it down underneath. Two hands would be better for this, so that's what you need to do. Get this into place, and then we can put our wiper arm back on. And once this is into place, and you make sure everything is where it should be, everything is lined up, all the pins are in their little correct holes, then we're going to grab our wiper arm. And the best way to do this is to have it straight. So there it is, it's on, and it's down onto the windshield. What we're going to do, without tightening anything on, and it's just kind of hovering up here, we're going to move it to where we want. That's too far. See, down here is way too far, and if you go further up, that's not right, because this one has to go above it. So we're going to go down until this whole thing is about straight from where it starts all the way through. So before I started, my down position was just about right there, not touching the inside of the cowl, but it was straight in line. So now I'm going to put the nut and the cover over the nut, and this should be good for this side. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And last, don't forget to put on this little clip that goes right over the top here. That clip goes in there and pops into place. Do that on both sides and you should be finished, and you should have a nice new cowl on here that's hopefully not broken or faded or why ever else you decided to do that. So I hope this helped you guys out, and I will see you next time. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter so you know all of the stuff that's going to come out and behind the scenes stuff. It's really awesome. Trust me, it's super cool to know what's happening before it happens. And if you haven't, watch that video. And if you haven't watched that video, watch that video. Or watch them both at the same time. And while you're here, subscribe down here. Yeah, watch that stuff. And if you're already subscribed and you've already watched both these videos, then I love you.